The old hospital had been abandoned for years, left to decay and be overtaken by nature. But rumors still persisted about the horrors that had occurred there, about the patients who died gruesome deaths and the doctors who were never quite right again after working there. Despite all this, Dr. Maria Gomez and her team of doctors and nurses saw the potential in the abandoned hospital. They were passionate about their work and believed that with enough hard work, they could turn the hospital into a state of the art facility. The team of doctors and nurses began to renovate the old hospital. But as they worked, strange things started happening. Doors would open and close on their own, and eerie noises could be heard coming from empty rooms. The doctors and nurses began to feel uneasy, as if they were being watched. Dr. Gomez tried to dismiss these strange occurrences, but things only got worse. Patients would be found in their rooms, terrified and insisting that something was watching them. And then there were the shadows that would dart across the walls, always just out of sight. As the hospital neared completion, the incidents became more frequent and more violent. Equipment would malfunction, and screams could be heard echoing through the hallways. Patients began to disappear, and the team of doctors and nurses realized that they were in grave danger. Dr. Gomez knew that they had to leave the hospital before it was too late, but some of her team refused to believe in the supernatural forces that seemed to be at play. And then it happened. One of the doctors was found dead in his office, with strange markings etched into his skin. The team realized that they were dealing with something beyond their understanding, something that could not be explained by science. They knew that they had to leave the hospital immediately, but the doors wouldn't budge. The hospital had become a prison, and they were trapped inside with the malevolent entity that was haunting it. Dr. Gomez and her team frantically searched for a way out, but it seemed as though the hospital was alive, twisting and turning to keep them trapped. As they ran through the hallways, they saw glimpses of the ghosts of patients who had died there, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they stumbled upon a stairway leading down. As they descended, the air grew colder and the sounds of screams grew louder. They reached the basement and found a tunnel that led outside. They burst through the exit and collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. As they looked back at the hospital, they saw that the entire building was ablaze, as if the malevolent entity had been destroyed by the fire. They knew that they had escaped with their lives, but they would never forget the horrors they had witnessed in the haunted hospital. From that day on, they vowed never to meddle with the supernatural again. Amy had always been prone to sleep paralysis, but lately it had become much worse. Every night, she would wake up in the middle of the night, unable to move her body, and she felt like she was suffocating. She would see shadowy figures at the foot of her bed, whispering things she couldn't understand. It was like living in a nightmare, and she didn't know how to escape. One night, Amy woke up in a cold sweat, paralyzed once again. She felt like something was different, like the shadows were more real than before. She tried to scream for help, but no sound came out. That's when she saw it, a grotesque figure with eyes that burned into her soul. It spoke to her in a language she couldn't understand, and she knew then that she was in real danger. Amy started to feel like she was losing her mind. She would stay up late into the night, terrified of falling asleep, afraid of what she might see in her dreams. The figure kept appearing, and it seemed like it was getting stronger, more powerful. One night, Amy decided to take control of the situation. She researched everything she could about sleep paralysis and found a few techniques that could help her break out of it. She also started keeping a dream journal, writing down everything she could remember from her nightmares. The journal revealed a disturbing pattern. The figure was always there, watching her, getting closer each time. Amy knew she had to confront it. She decided to try lucid dreaming, a technique that would allow her to control her dreams and face her fears. It wasn't easy, but Amy finally achieved lucidity in her dream. She looked around, and there it was, the figure standing in front of her, more real than ever. Amy took a deep breath and stepped forward, confronting her fears. The figure didn't disappear, but it also didn't attack her. Instead, it spoke to her again. And this time, Amy understood what it was saying. It was a manifestation of her own fears and anxieties. A living nightmare that had been feeding off her energy. Amy woke up feeling relieved, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She had faced her fears and come out on the other side. She continued to practice lucid dreaming, and over time, the figure appeared less and less until it was gone entirely. Amy never forgot the experience, though. She knew that her mind was capable of creating things that could terrify her. She learned to control her fears, but she also knew that she would never let her guard down again. The living nightmare was real, and she had faced it head on. When Samantha moved into her new apartment, she was thrilled to see that the bathroom had a large, ornate mirror. But soon after she started using it, she began to notice strange things happening. Her reflection seemed to be moving independently of her, making gestures she wasn't making, even winking at her. At first, Samantha dismissed it as a trick of the light or her imagination. But then one night, she woke up to use the bathroom and found herself staring at a strange, shadowy figure inside the mirror. It was like looking into a world beyond her own, where everything was the same but somehow twisted and distorted. Samantha reached out to touch the glass, and suddenly her hand plunged through it. She stumbled forward and found herself standing on the other side of the mirror, in a dark and eerie version of her own bathroom. As she looked around in shock, she saw that her reflection was no longer in the mirror. Instead, it was standing before her, grinning wickedly. "Welcome to my world," it said in a mocking voice. Samantha tried to scream, but no sound came out. She tried to run, but her body wouldn't move. Days turned into weeks, and Samantha found herself struggling to survive in the mirror world. Her reflection toyed with her, tormenting her with nightmares and playing cruel pranks on her. She saw other people trapped in the mirror world, screaming for help, but she couldn't reach them. Desperate to escape, Samantha began to search for a way out. She explored every inch of the mirror world, looking for some kind of portal or exit. But the longer she stayed, the more she realized that the mirror world was consuming her. She was becoming more like her reflection every day, her mind and body twisted and distorted by the strange energies of the mirror. Finally, Samantha found a small crack in the glass, a tiny gap between the two worlds. She knew that this was her chance to escape. "You're not going anywhere," it hissed. "You belong to me now." Samantha struggled, but her reflection was too strong. Just as she thought all was lost, she remembered something her grandmother had told her long ago. "A mirror is a portal to another world," she had said, "but it only works one way. The reflection can come out, but it can never go back in." With that thought in mind, Samantha suddenly twisted her arm around and grabbed her reflection by the neck. She yanked it forward and shoved it through the crack in the glass, pushing it back into the mirror world. The mirror shattered, and Samantha fell to the ground, gasping for breath. When she looked up, she saw that her reflection was still trapped in the mirror world, banging against the shattered glass in a frenzy. Samantha knew that the mirror world would always be a part of her, haunting her nightmares and whispering to her in her waking hours. But now she was free, and she vowed never to look into a mirror again. She knew that there were things beyond our world that were better left unseen.